Hi guys, it's Dan here at JTech, and today I'm going to show you how to work your way through diagnosing a crank nose thud. We're going to be working on this car today, and really there's just a few things you need to look at. So for an engine to run, you need fuel to burn, you need air to burn, you need spark to make it start burning, and then you need compression to compress it all together so that the spark can actually light it. And if you kind of wanted to segue, you need a signal from the computer to tell all of that stuff to happen with our newer cars. Alright, so if you have a car that will turn over, the starter's functioning, but it doesn't actually start, you kind of got to pick a direction you want to go to. So you don't necessarily have to pinpoint what's wrong with the problem, just pick a direction to go to pinpoint what system you need to work on. So you need a spark. So a spark is something that's easy to test for. I've already got this set up on this car. This is the coil that connects down to a spark plug right here. Spark plug here. Alright, so if I want to test for a spark, if I plug this plug in here and make sure this case is grounded but not this tip electrode here, when I crank the car, you should see a spark in that gap there. Not on this one. The spark plug is actually there again. So, just kidding. You do this one. Right? So we get our spark plug plugged in, and then I'm going to go crank the car. So as you saw, there was a spark from the spark plug, and that does not necessarily rule out the ignition system being the spark of the equation, but because the spark might not be hot enough, might not be lasting long enough, but for now I'm going to rule out that direction because it did actually spark. Alright, so if you're just going to assume for now that the spark isn't the issue, then you want to look into fuel pressure. This car does not have a Schrader valve for me to plug a fuel pressure gauge into. Okay? So, because of that, you can't put a gauge on it to test it real easy, but you can listen to see if you can hear the fuel pump. Now, when I put the key in the car just now to make the spark happen, I could hear the fuel pump running. So that means there is some kind of fuel pressure in there. So if you want to rule that out, the next thing you'd want to look for, to me, is compression. That's the next easiest thing that I know of. So, if you have compression, what you need to do is you need to pull one of your plugs out. You pull one of your spark plugs out, and you screw in a compression gauge. And you want to make sure you pull a fuse out of the fuse block that's over there to disenable the fuel injectors. That way you're not spraying any gas unnecessarily into the cylinders and possibly flooding them. And then you would crank the car over, and your gauge should rise. It should rise in steps. The pressure can vary, but you're looking for around 180 to 220 pounds of pressure on your gauge. If you have that, that means you're getting compression in your cylinders. And you want to make sure you test all four, because it could be just one or two that don't have compression. Could be enough to make your engine not want to start. If you don't have compression, that would mean that you have an issue with your compression rings in whatever cylinder that's lacking compression in. So then you would go to tackle that problem. If you didn't hear your fuel pump running on, then there's an input somewhere not making that come. what I would do next would be to jump in the relay box and force the relay to come on outside of any kind of command from the computer to see if it can come on. And then you can go from there to figure out what's making your fuel pressure not get to this point. Another thing you could look at is even if you have fuel pressure, your injectors might not be firing. There's several things that can cause that. The easiest way to test for your injectors is to grab a long screwdriver and just put it right up against the injector and put your ear to the handle, or use a mechanic's stethoscope if you can find one, and listen to them ticking. Ticking does not necessarily mean that it's opening or that it's opening enough to get enough fuel in there to actually run the engine, but if you hear ticking, it's probably functional. So then you can rule that out and go to another section. If you're not getting ticking or you're not getting spark, you're going to want to go look at your computer systems and make sure that it's actually sending a signal to both of those systems to actually start. You're going to need a wiring diagram to do this, and you go into your PCM or your ECM, whichever one happens to control your injectors and your spark plugs, and you have to back probe it and make sure that there's actually a signal coming from the computer. Got it? Too much info?